qu'on va danser le long du golfe clair.
What does a child's swing have in common with the waves of the sea? Or the certainty that the day follows night with the ebb and flow of the tide? Or again the vibrating strings of a piano with the nostalgia of a Chopin mazurka?
La mer qu'on va danser.
Or what happens in a mobile phone with wars of love or deception between two lovers?
D'argent, la mer.
Even the waves of the sea sometimes seem to speak.
It's true, and all these things have to do with oscillations and waves. And if we look into the world of atoms and their components through the eyes of science, we find that oscillations and waves are at the origin of all existing matter.
Are you saying that everything is made up of waves? Is there a reason for all this?
Nel lontano 1500, way back in 1564, Galileo Galilei, he was 19 years old at that time, discovered the magic that was hidden behind the oscillations of an oil lamp and started to explore systematically how objects behave under the action of their weight. Two seconds. This is called the period of the oscillations, and it is always the same. 2 seconds again, an apple, a cord, or anything else you hang, the period does not change. It depends only on the length of the wire. In nature, oscillations are the measure of passing time and propagate as waves. Everything that occurs in matter generates waves that move away from the point of origin, communicating something of what has happened all around. The waves on water help us to see the main features of any wave. Frequency, which corresponds to how many oscillations per second are observed, and the wavelength, which is the distance between two crests. Then there is the speed with which the wave propagates. Waves propagating in the air have been crucial to the development of human civilization. We perceive the air waves with the frequency between 20 and 20,000 oscillations per second as sounds, which are more acute or lower depending on their frequency. And these have enabled us to develop language and music and keep in contact with everything that happens around us. There are waves propagating in practically any kind of material, like the terrible earthquakes in the Earth's crust. But there are also waves that propagate through empty space, where there is nothing material that can swing, but only a property of space to generate forces. The warming light from the sun, as well as the waves emitted by a mobile phone or the radar that guide aircraft, or a microwave oven, or TV, and then the gamma rays that treat cancer, are none other than electromagnetic waves propagating through empty space. And the light that comes from the stars can tell us what happens and what chemical elements are present in the most remote parts of the cosmos. Due to the different oscillation frequencies of the electromagnetic waves, we can also enjoy the colors of light. Looking at the rainbow, we realize that the visible white light is made up of different superimposed colors. And if we make further research into the microscopic world of atoms and their elementary components, we find another kind of wave which can swing in the void. They mysteriously govern the motion and destiny of all microscopic parts of matter.
Queste onde fantasma.
This kind of ghost wave, or de Broglie waves after their discovery, is the basis of the real world. They are essential for the structure of atoms, ensuring the permanence of the chemical properties of matter. And atoms combine with each other in different ways, giving rise to all what we can actually see, in a similar way to how different combination of words give rise to all what we can say. This last statement does not come from recent science. It is more than 2000 years old, having been taken from the masterpiece by the Latin poet Lucretius, which explains the Greek philosopher Epicurus' idea of nature.
Le parole con le quali è scritto l'universo.
And thus the waves are the words with which the universe was written. But how can this determine what is permanent and never changes in spite of wear and tear? Now the magic of Chopin mazurka can help us.
Le onde elastiche
The elastic vibrations of a string of a piano or of air in an organ pipe reach our ears through the surrounding air.
Le diverse note.
Different musical notes correspond to different frequencies, and the harmony comes from the coupling of sound frequencies with the same ratios as between the small integer numbers. The harmonic ratios are then what enable us to memorize the sequences of sounds of the musical melodies and also the words of our language, without the corruption of time. Language and music were the first digital encodings that man used, but behave in the same way as the waves of sound, even the waves which guide the microscopic material systems. There is in fact only a finite number of ways to keep elementary particles together permanently by tuning their waves so that they fit into a definite and limited space. This gives rise to the atoms and the incredible variety of things in the world, just as sound waves produce the variety of musical harmonies and melodies. But let's get to something that sometimes touches us closely: nuclear magnetic resonance. This important diagnostic tool works by tuning the frequency of its circuits with infinitesimal oscillations of the nuclei of the atoms in a patient, induced by a powerful magnet. Just as in an orchestra, when you tune the instruments, it thus allows us to visualize the interior of our body, providing risk-free diagnosis also of the coronary arteries. Waves and their harmony are then the way which nature employs to send information and energy to its different parts, and also to encode the permanent properties of all the matter present in the universe. But they are also the means by which human beings can communicate and make their thoughts and emotions eternal, through language and music.
Waves, an invisible thread joining different and distant phenomena. Then they generate harmony, which seems to be the basis of everything.
È vero.
This is true, and we seem to be bordering on magic if we think that just as the harmony of sounds creates music and language, a similar harmony of waves inside atoms generates the whole variety of things that surround us.
Proprio come I suoni dell'alfabeto? Like the sounds of the alphabet that combine to generate everything we can say. But music, for me, is much easier than the mathematics that physicists use to describe atoms. And that quotation of Pythagoras you told me a few days ago, well, I think only a monster like him could have invented it. The human mind makes music when it is involved in mathematics.